Matty Loves Podcast. Matty Loves Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode, issue, whatever you want to call it, of Matty Loves Podcast. I'm Simone. I'm the host of the show. I've been wanting to do a podcast for a long time, and I figure now that I'm in the last the stretch run of my time in school, I might as well go ahead and try to sell myself a little bit on the internets. But I can't do this job alone. With me is a pal of mine through my studies at school. And his name is Dr. Tom Lucas.
I am not a doctor, although I will play one on this podcast. And that's a dated reference, and that's good because I'm a dated guy. Matt was a student of mine. We're actually not that far in age, though, between the two. I have been around a bit, big fan of many, many things, from comics to movies to books to games, and because I've been around for a while, that's what makes me infinitely qualified to hang tough here with Matt as we discuss the topical issues, the fun stuff, the pop culture, the things that we love, the things that we want to create, and our, of course, valued opinions on those topics.
Definitely valued. Also, I'll have you guys know Tom is a published author.
This is correct. I have 2 books, hopefully many more.
I've read one of those books, Pax Titanus, which is a brand of bizarro fiction, and it was my first introduction into the genre, and I absolutely loved it. And then you also have Letter to the Corinthians.
Leather to the Corinthians, which is also a dated reference. And for those that would be of the Gen X generation, such as myself, the Ricardo Montalban commercial for the Chrysler Cordoba featured rich upholstered seats in Corinthian leather. And so that's the whole pun, because there is no such thing as Corinthian leather. So that should give you kind of an idea of what the book is really playing on. So thanks for your kind words on Pax Titanus, which is available on Amazon. And for your listeners, one way you could support us is, pick up a copy, read Matt's blog, and listen to the show, obviously. But if you like my contributions, if you could pick up a copy, that'd be great, because I still need to sell about 100 of them by October. So that's enough of that.
Yeah, okay. I did want to get that in there, though.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But anyway, so what we are going to be accomplishing on this podcast, hopefully, is giving you our valued opinions on any type of, and I hate to use the word geeky, entertainment that's out there, as far as comic books, which is my thing, and film and video games and television. We've pretty much been into all of those things, since we were younger, and I have wanted for a long time to, I don't know, maybe have some type of soapbox to stand up on in certain for certain things, such as comic books, because as we all know, Hollywood is starting to have an effect on comic books and our stories. And
oh my God, it's so true. The 12-year-old version of me is just exploding over all this stuff. The 45-year-old version of me is kind of sighing a little bit as to, have we reached critical mass? Well, one of the things, too, for those of you who decide to give this podcast a chance, is that one thing I think you're going to find that's a little bit different is that Matt and myself, we want to talk about things we love. We're not here to tear down things, just add more static to the mix. We're going to talk about things we love, and in the hopes that you'll check them out. There's plenty of negative type stuff in the fan world.
Totally.
And yeah, and now that there is such an opportunity to share your voice because of all the manners of the internets and the whatnots, many people feel free to, really just sort of pile on the crap. And, if I read another article about why female characters' costumes need to be drawn.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, man, yeah, that's another irritating thing. It's like, hey, man, it's comic books, and in 1992, when, it was 10 times worse with, how females are represented in comic books by outfits or by, whatever.
That's because Satan was the most popular comic artist at the time, Satan being Rob Liefeld. My personal Satan. But, okay, so for those of you that are sensitive to that issue, look, that's cool. All I'm saying is talk about stuff you love, not stuff that you hate.
Right.
Because there's enough static out there.
Yeah.
I scroll through my newsfeed, and half the time I'm just, I consider, unplugging.
Yeah, and although sometimes it may seem like we might be frustrated over certain things, it's not that we hate them. This is a podcast that's going to really pump out, positivity towards, the comic book, film, television, video game industry. But there are things, like Tom said, that we feel very passionate about. And it's part of the reason why we are doing this podcast. It's just so we can sound off,
Yeah, well, we got to take some stuff to the wall.
Sure.
Without a doubt. And we will be, critical of things on this show. We will bring some things to light. And we will talk about issues that drive us nuts, But I think that you picked the right podcast to listen to because we're going to have a lot of fun with there's so much. This is a golden age of geekdom, dude.
Yeah.
Okay? There's more stuff to get into than anyone has time. And it will not be stopping.
It's just going to get more and more and more and more. It's like when in 1996, and I'm thinking about all the information this internet has, I mean, there's got to be limitations, but there are not. It's like a universe into its own.
Yeah, ever expanding.
Right.
Sort of 1994 is like that Big Bang moment,
Pretty much.
where what was really just a private network of computers between universities and government, entities, went public, and I remember being an undergrad and going to a presentation on Gopher. And Gopher was a tool that you could use to look at files on computers at other schools. It was the earliest version of an internet browser you can imagine. And that was like in 92. I didn't even know what they were presenting. It was such a foreign concept, and I laugh, because, 2 years later, towards the end of my college years, the internet is effectively born. Mm-hmm. And our world is utterly transformed.
Yeah, I look at all of the resources that the kids now, in high school and even college, have today that, when I was in high school, 15 years ago, there wasn't anything close to it. I thought that the coolest thing back then to do was to go on like cdnow.com and sample tracks. I was like, wow, this is where I can listen to everything. So it wasn't until really then that I started to really figure out the resources that any search engine can provide. Because at the end of the day, we use it once a day at least.
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean, we got to know something, and that's the great thing about technology today is, it's that instantaneous knowledge. You want to know something, bam, you can find it right away.
Unless you're in a horror movie, because you never get cell service in a horror movie.
Yeah, well,
it's always the first thing that goes.
I really wish someone would peek in some movies and be like, don't you know this is a horror movie? You can't use your phone here.
You might want to get a satellite phone before you go to that cabin.
That's why I'm thinking if I was a horror movie director, all of my movies would be based in 1985, so I wouldn't have to worry about shit.
That's what you have to do. That is so smart, Matt, because when you're sitting down to write a story, if it's a contemporary situation, the character now has so many ways out. Yep. You either have to make them ridiculously stupid or unlucky.
Right, exactly. No, you're absolutely right. And like, okay, so my favorite film of all time is a horror movie. I'm not a horror movie buff.
You've actually narrowed it down to one film?
One film.
Okay.
Only one. And a lot of people
I'm excited for this.
A lot of people can't do this, but I can. John Carpenter's Halloween in 1978.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and the main reason was because when I was a little boy, at the dinner table one night, I never forget it. I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, and I asked my mom and dad, "What's the scariest movie you guys have ever seen?" Because when I was a kid, I used to love to go to the rental store and go into the horror section and just look at the covers of the videos,
right.
and look on the back and like read about it and be like, Night of the Demons 2, what is this? It looks weird. Funland, there's a clown on the cover with a Tommy gun. What?
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, so. I asked him at the dinner table, I asked mom and dad, what's the scariest movie you've ever seen? And in unison, mom and dad were like, Halloween.
Oh, boy.
And I was like, what?
So now, what year would this be for you?
This would be...
figure this out?
Yeah, probably around like 1990, 91.
Okay, so it's 1990. Jesus.
Yeah, so we're talking, 12 years after that came out. And I, and dad was like, I'll go rent it. And mom was like, no, you won't. And dad was like, yeah, I'll go rent it. You want to watch it? I'm like, oh, come on, mom. Yeah, let's watch a movie, a horror movie tonight, dad. And my dad is not like a movie buff, He is a fan of the classics. One thing that I think I take from my father as far as film goes is, all right, so it's funny I have you here now to tell you this because I've been wanting to tell you this. So my dad watches like, he's always like been a fan of the Turner movie classics. Sure. He'll just run it all day. You know?
Yeah.
Just sit there and watch them or
How
do
old
whatever.
is your father?
My dad was... My dad was born in 1956. So he's 58.
Okay. All right.
Wait. No? 50. Well, yeah, he's 58. He'll be 59 in November.
All right. Cool.
So anyway, he, and he's also the person that I've gone to, growing up, asking him about movies and music, especially, and sports. Oh my gosh. So, anyway, Dad went out and rented the movie, and Mom the whole time was like, Matt, you shouldn't have done that, or, whatever. And then Mom was like...
Wait, now how old are you again?
I'm 33.
No, at the time.
Oh, 9 years old.
You're 9.
Yeah.
Oh,
my mom was like, listen, Matthew, when I saw this movie, your father, I had to walk to the bathroom with me in our apartment and stand outside the door. That's how scared I was. She was like, this is a horror movie that could happen in real life for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
And that, to me, I was like, what? And that was when I was like, Matt, you might have just, screwed up here. So Dad comes back with the video, and we go downstairs to watch it. And, I mean, from the jump, I'm already freaked out. I freaked myself out. Like, as soon as it says October 31st, 1960 whatever, when you're just Michael's eyes and you're going around his house and he goes up and stabs his older sister and everything. And for me, that was, I was already freaked, but it wasn't until Lori and her friends are walking home from school and he peers out behind the bush. And her friend walks up and she's like, Lori.
Isn't it kind of like a sidestep kind of thing?
Yeah, somebody wants to talk to you, and then I was upstairs right after that. Couldn't do it. I mean, I got up out of my seat and ran upstairs.
So you couldn't even watch?
I didn't even finish it. I couldn't finish.
Well, that's terrible because in your child's mind, you wrote the rest of that movie.
Right.
You were.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Absolutely, and so it took me after that. It probably took me until I was about 13 or 14 years old to where I watched it all. And it was on a night where Mom and Dad went out somewhere. I was all by myself at home. It was coming on TV, and I went down in the basement. I turned all the lights off.
Oh, you were going for maximum effect, huh?
Yeah, I want, and after that, that's bringing it back around to the brilliance of the internet. After I got through that movie all the way through, blew my mind, and I went on the internet and just, early days of the internet, and I was just trying to find all the information I can about that movie, the backstory if there was one. And then once I got to the whole, this movie didn't cost anything to make hardly. They shot it all in just a little bit over a month, it just blew my mind, and thinking that, that film just set the stage for, so much.
Oh, its influence is ridiculous. And John Carpenter is the kind of guy that I feel has never had a budget to match his artistic power.
Yeah.
Power's not really the right word. I just feel like he merits a much larger budget. He has done so much with so little, so often. Mm-hmm. And we could devote a series of podcasts to John Carpenter's work. Halloween, I would agree, absolute freak out of a movie. I saw it very young, too. Another thing, too, that used to happen a lot for me, because we're talking way pre-internet, when I was a kid, a lot of the times the only way that you could learn about a movie was meeting up with a kid on the playground who had seen it, and then they would provide you a full plot summary.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you can just type it and read about it on Wikipedia.
There's always that kid too. It's the kid that the parents are like, yeah, watch whatever.
Yeah, the totally negligent or permissive parents or the absent parents or whatever.
Right. That's the kid's house that you want to go stay over at on Friday night after school, so you can get into all the R-rated films that he has at his disposal.
Yeah, for me, it was this kid who lived across the street from my grandparents named Bo. Yes, Bo. And Bo had all kinds of movies and stuff. But I remember a kid relating the events of Amityville Horror to me on the playground. And, in my child's mind, the film that was rolling was even far scarier than... They're like, oh, there's a pig in a window, and it's looking at you, and there's a room, and it's red, and the walls are bleeding, and I'm like, So, thinking about your experience with Halloween, man, there are a lot of things I saw when I was a kid that I probably should not have seen.
Yeah.
And I can't narrow it down, but I could tell you either the first movie that scared me, or the movie that scared me the most in my childhood. Because we only have so much time.
Right. Why don't you give me the childhood scariest?
Okay, we'll save the other one for...
We'll save the other one later, yeah.
Okay, so you want the one that scared me the most in my childhood.
Well, see, but Halloween for me was like, it's not scary to me anymore when I watch it, but it is the scariest story.
Yeah,
for me. So maybe if
it's the plausibility, the suburbia,
like were any of yours like that?
Well,
or was it more like creature feature-y?
Here's the movie, okay? It's The Body Snatchers, 1978, with Donald Sutherland.
Is it Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
Okay. It was the first remake.
Okay. It was just called... Invasion of the Body Snatchers was way back in the day.
Yeah, it's like in the 50s, and it was this whole metaphor for communism, okay? In the 70s, they redid it, and...
what was it a metaphor for? Disco?
Well, I swear to God, right? I don't know if they were just going straight horror or what, but okay. So for those who haven't seen Invasion of the Body Snatchers, basically all these pretty flowers, these plants, sort of spores, sort of just come down, land on Earth, and nobody really seems to care or notice, sort of thing, and they take root in these pods. What they do is they basically latch onto you in your sleep and duplicate you and kill the original. And then, so it's basically sort of an alien plant doppelganger version of yourself, a pod person. Okay. You may have
the
heard
pod people.
Yeah, the pod people. You may have heard this phrase before, right? So why was this film so scary? So first of all, in 1978, I am 8 years old.
Okay.
And my mother, who is most definitely listening to this podcast right now, because my mother's supportive of everything I do, because she's an awesome mom, and hopefully your mom's.
And she's tuning in as we speak, I am sure.
Hi, moms. So,
Hi, moms. Yeah.
Right? So, Mom, it's not your fault. All right. My mother was a single working mom, and, we went to the movies a lot.
Sure.
And sometimes we saw movies that she really wanted to see that were really boring to me, like any movie with a horse in it. She loved horse movies and, some stuff like that. But, occasionally we go to see other movies that, in retrospect, probably weren't the best choice. And Invasion of the Body Snatchers was definitely one of those, because here's the thing, right? I hung tough with the movie, but something really, because it ends horribly. It ends with a very dark, horrific ending, okay? There's no beating the invasion, okay? The invasion is successful, okay?
All right.
All right, so we go home, and I spend the next 6 months convinced that people are being turned into aliens around me. Convinced that one day I will be turned into a pod person.
Wow.
And yes, I lived with this horror.
The mind of a 9-year-old.
Mother, please, I'm not holding you to this, all right? So it's okay. We got through it. The thing about being a kid, and everyone can relate to this, obviously, is you don't reveal a lot of stuff that's going on.
Right, yeah.
With yourself. You don't.
No.
You're
figuring stuff out.
Yeah,
it's
right?
It's a constant development.
If you're scared about something or worried about something, a lot of times you won't tell anybody.
No.
I didn't tell anybody that
you were scared.
Thought, yeah.
You were going to become an alien.
Yeah, and that everyone else was too. And I think...
you and you.
I think I had a test worked out, and I was like, But I was scared, man. I was scared for a long time. So that's that's the movie that freaked me out for quite a while.
Yeah, my thing with Michael Myers was I didn't want to look out of the window, my bedroom window, and see him standing in my yard.
My God.
That was the main thing.
Because he was going to be there.
Listen, I would do this too. I would go in my room once I think about it and freak myself out, and I would just go over to my window and look out in the yard. Or like when I was a kid and it was nighttime and I was like I'm talking about like teenager, and I'm getting dropped off at home, and when we're on the way home, if I see any resemblance of like a station wagon behind us, because that's what Michael Myers drives in that movie. Man, and it would follow us up the hill to my road, and it would just freak me out. Anytime it was late at night and I was getting dropped off at home and there was a car following us, I don't know, it's just me being a scared kid, knowing how to scare myself, I guess.
John Carpenter knows what scares people.
Hey.
He knows what the primal truths of the human animal are,
And part of his brilliance that nobody else has ever done like he has is not only does he have a mind visually, but sonically.
Oh yeah.
His
great
music.
Point.
He's a composer, man. And one thing that came out last year or earlier this year, I think I was in your class when it came out, the John Carpenter.
Yeah, I am ashamed to say I have yet to hear that. Oh my gosh,
man, it's so good. And I mean, near the end of the album, it starts to get into more of the more recent work, but the first half, it's all good, don't get me wrong, but the first half of that
earlier
album,
stuff is
don't go to bed listening to it. This is not evening music to sleep by. Absolutely not.
When should I be listening?
Probably like on your commute.
Yeah.
Your commute for sure.
It'll make my commute very dramatic.
It will get your brain going too, right. I'm sure. So yeah, but going back to everything, kids, that's why if you want to make a movie, set it in 1985 so you don't have to worry about
you don't. Yeah, people used to just say, hey,
caller ID.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing at all,
Just a pair of scissors going up to that telephone line and cutting it. That's
right.
when you knew that you were screwed, more or less.
It was a pretty amazing thing, too, is like back then, people didn't flake out on you as much when you made plans with them. Because if you said, I'll see you next Tuesday for lunch at Johnny's Diner, your friend would be there.
Because there's no getting around it. He can't send you a text and, and
Facebook
say,
message.
Right. Oh, yeah.
My socks are wet. I stepped in a puddle.
Right.
I got to stay home and dry them.
Right.
Yeah, no, there's not. Yeah, I don't know. I think it made people a little bit more impeccable with their word. It's a lot different now, But and here's the thing too is that, for the millennial audience, man, you're gonna see some changes. Ooh. Oh man, the generation that comes after you is going to be
frustrate you to no end.
They're gonna think you are so primitive.
Yep. Uh-huh.
That's amazing.
And they'll have that extra bone in their neck from their, phones and whatnot.
Yeah, the chip.
Right. So anyway, this is right now what you've just gotten in the last, 25 minutes is generally me and Tom's conversation whenever we hang out. So that's as good of an introduction that I can think of right now for us.
This is who we are, folks, man. Yep. This is... It's flowing like wine.
You're right. I want you people to feel like you're sitting in here with us and engaging on this conversation. And believe me, you'll have a chance to leave feedback if you'd like. But as we're moving on with this podcast, one thing that I feel like, and I guess I'm taking this for one of my, guys that I've taken a cue on the podcast, who anyone should would be Kevin Smith. But, he has segmented podcasts, and I feel like when I'm listening to a podcast, I enjoy a segmented podcast instead of just a from the start talk straight through for about 40 minutes and then, take it easy.
Right.
So anyway, so we do have a few segments that we're going to provide every podcast, and one of these segments
is what's our first choice segment?
Our first choice segment is something that I like to call good news, bad news.
Yeah, Matty's got good news. Yeah, Matty's got the bad news. Tom's got that good news, but Tom's got bad news, good news and bad news. Yeah.
All right, lay it on me, man. What's the good news?
All right, well, so each of us are going to be presenting our own good news and bad news for us personally. My good news is, and this is a little dated because from when we're recording this podcast, this news broke. I want to say maybe a week and a half ago, but one of my favorite comic book artists and one of my favorite comic book writers are teaming up once again on a new Doctor Strange comic book for Marvel. Now, Bendis and Chris Bachalo first worked together for me that I really enjoyed was the recent Uncanny X-Men run was incredible. And they did some stuff in the past with the Avengers and other things that I'm sure I'm forgetting right now. But I don't know. They have a good match, and Marvel seriously has needed a Doctor Strange book for a hot minute now, and it looks like this one's going to be quite interesting. Well,
they want to sort of stir up the fan base for the upcoming film, right? Yeah. I don't know what year in the timeline Doctor Strange comes out, but it's going to be a film, so they need to really reinvigorate.
It's 2016 tentatively.
Oh, okay. So we need to.
They just started. Apparently, one of the news blurbs that I found. I don't know if it was Bleeding Cool. I don't know if it was comicbookmovie.com. Those are the two I mainly go to. I read a tweet from either the director or somebody in the crew saying, leaving now to go to London to start filming Doctor Strange.
Well, it's Engelbert Humperdinck is playing Doctor Strange,
That's right, he is. The dragon, right?
Right, Cumberbatch and Bingle,
He played the Doctor, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think he's a doctor. Just kidding.
Right, so what kind of Doctor Strange are we going to get from Bendis?
Oh, well, see, that's the thing. there's no telling. I think a little bit. I know that like he has been imbued with some sort of not mystical power, and I don't know if it's Asgardian or not, but he is definitely wielding a battle axe. And,
Stop it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, he's got a battle axe.
Can he lift it?
Yeah, see, that's the... Well, of course he could lift it because, he's a mystic.
Yeah,
so.
I know. I'm joking.
Oh,
but,
right.
I always thought of Doctor Strange as... And maybe that's why they're doing it, Doctor Strange was a stand and twiddle his fingers and make grand sweeping gestures.
And make the devil horns.
The devil horns,
yeah.
right. And for that alone... makes me on board, or the devil horns, and of course an incantation, some like BS Latin kind of bippity boppity boo, jazz hands sort of thing.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
He's gonna be a more battle mage, like melee.
Yeah, that's
kind of dude.
That's what I'm getting. Apparently, there's like they're going new direction for Doctor Strange, which, hey, like I had mentioned before, can only be tuned to Hollywood, man.
Okay.
It's
right.
It's this.
Is it a huge Viking type battle axe, or is it like?
I'm gonna try to find it for you real quick and show it to you.
I don't. Is it like So it's a physical weapon that's like glowy and junk, not like okay.
Look at that. I mean, we're looking right now. What I'm figuring is either the first promo pic or the first issue cover, showing him that Chris Bacalo did, and he's got the battle axe, but he's flying.
So for you metalheads out there, first of all, Doctor Strange is basically doing the devil horns.
No doubt.
There's tiny skulls flying everywhere. And he has an axe that looks to be about from edge to edge. It's one of those double-edged classic Viking battle axes. Looks to be at least the length of his torso wide, if not waist to head. Yeah. This is a huge. It's like a
He-Man battle axe.
Yeah, it's like what the fire department in Valhalla uses to,
Yeah, well, but one thing with Doctor Strange, switching gears a little bit about Strange, if there was one movie studio outside of Marvel Studios that could produce a Doctor Strange movie that would have totally just blown our minds to bits if they had the technology now, either Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee as Doctor Strange and have it be a Hammer film.
Right.
For me, I don't know why. Doctor
know.
Strange for me has always been, I just always either pictured Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee as Strange, but I think Strange is American, though.
Could you be convinced to cast Vincent Price?
Oh,
could you do a Vincent Price?
As Doctor Strange, yeah, but there's so many other characters that the Vincent Price, I know, the leader.
Right.
I thought he'd be a good The Leader in the Hulk comics.
Yeah, no, Vincent Price, man.
Wow. But yeah, so my good news is, one of my favorite duos in current comic book creativity, and Brian Michael Bendis and Chris Bacalo are going to be reteaming to do Doctor Strange, which I'm glad because Uncanny X-Men has ended. Unfortunately, I don't this is another one of those Hollywood things, the X-Men. This is a whole other discussion about how the X-Men and Fantastic Four are kind of getting phased out of the Marvel use
because of the movies.
Yes, because of the movies.
It's weird.
Yeah.
What it is corporation moving its assets around.
Yeah.
It's strategic. It has nothing to do with storytelling at all.
No, and I feel that these creators are presenting these great and badass ideas, and the higher ups are looking at it and being like, well, we like this, but that the Inhumans movie's coming out in 2035.
Right.
So you're going to have to it's just stuff like that.
No, it's a different world, man.
Yeah.
It's if you're a big two book, publisher, DC and Marvel are not their own entities. No. They are subdivisions of much larger machines.
Yep.
And arguably Marvel is much better managed. DC and I'm a DC guy. It's got nothing to do with whether or not you love Batman or Superman.
Right,
the management
yeah.
of the DC universe seems quite haphazard, not well focused, and clearly the wrong people are making decisions.
But I guess the money's there.
Yeah,
you know that WB money is rolling in still.
Michigan Frog, man,
right?
You can't hold them back. But yeah, it's a weird thing, you know. That's why it's refreshing to look at something like Image Comics and what they're doing over there.
I mean, over the past 12 months, I've read so many Image books that are doing exactly what comics should do. And some that have, you know, not met my expectations.
Right.
But for the most part, I mean, for me right now, my Image books that I'm getting every single week, I'm loving every minute of
I think
them.
they have a lot more hits than misses. And they don't have, corporate overlords to answer to.
Yeah, sure,
you know?
absolutely. And I'm reading books that are written by, you know, creators of DC and in Marvel, you know, but they're getting their own chance to really do whatever the hell they want to do, and I dig that the most, you know, and I think that these stories that they are writing are kind of in the essence of like a Mark Gruenwald Squadron Supreme, whereas I really want to write this story for DC or Marvel, but they won't let me, so I'm going to do what I want to do, you know, at Image Comics and create a story, you know, with my own characters. And
did you ever finish that Squadron Supreme?
I'm almost done with the hardcover omnibus that I got at MegaCon.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Another
Time.
No. I'm really curious.
Great stuff. I'm enjoying it so much, but I'm also enjoying the absolute like ludicrous stuff that goes on in that book. I've sent you one of the panels of the Wizard.
Yeah.
You know? Hey, I'm the Wizard. Call the cops. You know, or whatever he says. Just you know. And the Wizard, folks, is pretty much the Flash of Squadron Supreme.
Yes.
Not to get too far into it, but Mark Gruenwald, the guy who wrote Squadron Supreme, was originally did he have a Justice League of America story? Either that or Squadron Supreme wasn't created by Mark Gruenwald, but the original creators. Oh my God, I can't remember who it is now. But anyway, the original creators, that was their whole deal. They wanted to do a Justice League story, couldn't do it, so then they brought the Squadron over to Marvel.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that the original Squadron, was like working like within the canon of actual Marvel, and it wasn't until Gruenwald came that he kind of set Squadron Supreme in their own dimension.
Yeah, he set them.
Still used some villainy or whatever from that. So anyway, really been enjoying that. But yeah, Doctor Strange, new comic is on the way from Brian Michael Bendis and Chris Picciolo, and I can't wait. And that is my good news for this week. Now, my bad news, we don't, I don't want to spend too much time on it, or any time, with the bad news, but one of my favorite artists from my childhood, Earl Norem, passed away a little over a week ago, and he is the painter for as a kid. I had a lot of these Golden Book adventure books for He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and he did a lot of the painted covers for those books. And also, I had like posters that I'd pull out of my He-Man magazine that I'd put on my walls. I was young. But he was one of the first artists as I got older, like even like 12 years old, I could see something painted by him and be like, that's Earl Norem.
Okay.
I just knew I could recognize it, just like, I could
just
recognize Jim Lee.
Style. Yeah. Just always.
Right.
Just immediate.
Exactly. So that was kind of a bummer news, but, I just want to pay my respects to Earl Norem and what he did for me, as far as just seeing like how awesome, superhero art can be.
Right. What a lucky man to have a gig like that.
No doubt, man.
Getting to do that for a living.
No doubt.
Nice job.
So anyway, so Tom, what's your good news and bad news this week?
Okay, so even though it's episode 1, I'm gonna do a good news, bad news. It's basically the same thing.
That's fine.
All right. So my good news, bad news, and this is highly personalized, is Fallout 4. Fallout 4 was announced at E3 recently. It will be coming out in November. Fallout is my jam, man.
Fallout 1, 2, 3.
And Wastelander or whatever it was, which was the game they did in the mid-'80s before they even did Fallout, man. I've been living with versions of this franchise for, since probably 83, 84,
I never knew that. I never knew Fallout had been in constant development, more or less, since the 80s. That's wild.
Yeah, it's a thing. I mean, it certainly doesn't, carry the same level of, popularity that other IPs that are 30 plus years old, such as Star Wars, but Fallout is a thing that's been around for a long time. And I've been holding off on getting a PS4, but with the advent of Fallout 4, in November, that is a guarantee. Okay,
they're going to sell a lot of systems. I'm sure.
Oh my god!
And I'm sure you're not the only one that's like, I've been waiting on the PS4. I mean, a lot of people, for mainly just the price point.
Sure.
But also too, with these early systems, these new next gen systems, you got to give it a year. None of these systems are going to come out just right off the bat, just you're going to hit after hit after hit. It's not going to be like that.
You nailed it, man. You got to get. I think you got to give these things some time, develop a catalog. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of Xbox 360 games I still have never played, and they're dirt cheap now. So I just go. And here's the thing, though. And here's where the good news, bad news thing really starts to work here. I only have so much time for gaming. I have my career as an educator. I have my writing career. I have my apparently now podcasting career, potentially, right?
Yeah.
So I have all these things, and of course I have a lovely wife at home and friends, and it's good to get fresh air now and again. So, those days where I could just devote hours and hours to a game, those are gone. So I'm an adult. So Fallout 4, the features. First of all, the game world is 4 times the size of Skyrim.
Wow.
Okay. Why?
Yeah.
Okay. I gave up playing Skyrim because...
It took too long? You could never finish the game?
Yeah. It's in my retirement package now.
Right.
I will return to Skyrim. The game guide is thicker than a Yellow Pages, which for our younger viewers was kind of like the internet in a book.
It was kind of like the contacts in your phone.
Yeah. If you printed out all the contacts in your region, right, into a book. So anyway.
They still print telephone books.
I don't know why.
I know.
It's a waste. Trees are being murdered for no reason.
They're getting smaller and smaller, though. The one that arrived on my doorstep earlier this year was about the size of like a comic book, a graphic novel. I was like, okay.
It's like a lawn service and like a couple people's grandmas or something.
Lawyers.
So 4 times the game area. The collector's edition, which is a must-buy, includes a full-sized wearable replication of the Pip-Boy, okay, which your character in the game wears.
So now you can dress as the character while you play.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And you get this app and you put it on your phone and you slide your phone into the Pip-Boy. You wear the Pip-Boy and you can control aspects of the game from the Pip-Boy.
Okay. All right. So wait. This Pip-Boy, I'm thinking, is some sort of uniform, but it's not. It's some handheld device.
It's like a super bracelet.
Okay.
It's like this big forearm thing.
Okay.
And in the game, you get a scrappy German Shepherd animal.
Does it come companion. With a dog, too?
Yeah, well, you get the dog. Yeah, right, a real live dog. Right, so be sure to unpack the box as soon as you get it.
Yeah.
Okay? So... the character creation tools are ridiculous. Everything is contextual, and the other feature that's really huge is you can build settlements in this game. So you can build a place to live, and I guess it has a tower defense kind of sort of feature in that you will get attacked by raiders. So you have to build a settlement that can hold up, and then NPCs will show up and live there. Okay, like I live in a house in the real world.
And an NPC is?
Oh, non-player character. Those are just characters that are created by the game, right? So it won't be like other live gamers. Although, sure, why? We should just pile
Why
that
not?
Yeah,
I know. My question is, when do you start to play the game?
Well,
When do you
right?
press start.
Yeah, where's the story? Oh, and there's like 70 weapons, and they're customizable 500 different ways.
Right.
And the armor that you can now. Who asks for these features? Okay, Fallout 3 took me. I put 120 hours of gameplay time into that game. I completed every quest. I visited every location on the map. I unlocked everything.
100%.
100% on everything because Fallout's my jam.
Sure.
I've never reached that level of completion with any game ever.
Yeah.
But I really do love what Bethesda does and the world they've created. I won't be able to, I'm buying Fallout 4. I'm buying the dork-ass collector's edition because you
work for a living.
Yes, I work for a living. And I got the collector's edition from Fallout 3, and it came with a lunchbox and a bobblehead, and it's cool as hell, man. So yeah. So I'm going forward with it. But the sad part is I don't know how much of the game I will actually get to really experience because there's too much game.
It sounds to me like you get the game, you sit down, and you think to yourself, well, what do I do first?
Right?
Not where do I go first? What do I got to do first to prep myself so I can start playing the game? Because for me, it seems like anybody that's a novice to Fallout, like if I were to play it, I would get right into the game and then find out all this other shit that I could use. And then I would be like, oh, well, I'm just going to start all over again now that I can, use my phone and do all this stuff and know how it all works.
Right.
But, what is the story of Fallout pretty much your generic every video game that comes out in the, in the past, 2 years that's popular, complete, a bomb dropped and everybody died, or
Fallout's got part of it.
Or is it all different scenarios? It's a different story every time.
It was slightly different. Like back in Fallout 1 was you were a member of a tribe and you were trying to find this piece of technology that was going to help your tribe survive in this post-apocalyptic world.
Right.
In Fallout 2, you played a descendant of that original tribal member, and you leave the vault to go and get this thing called, I think it was called the Eden, which was a device that was, I think, like a terraforming kind of thing or whatever sort of deal. In Fallout 3, they changed it a little bit. So the basic world setting is that take your total atomic age situation, 50s, bomb shelters,
the communists are going to blow us all up.
Communists are going to blow us up, all that stuff, right? But then it does happen, okay?
Okay.
But there's the science fiction element. So in this world, there were these large, community-sized bomb shelters that were built. And everyone goes underground and lives underground for a couple hundred years. And then finally you come up out of the vaults into the post-apocalypse where
the game starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and some people have been living there for some time. There are bandit communities and road warrior, Mad Max kind of stuff going on. There's the Brotherhood of Steel, which is a culture that worships technology and walks around in powered armor suits. And there's, your standard mohawked raiders with football pads.
Sounds like the Warriors to me.
There's the Warriors and all that. And, some people came out of the vaults earlier than others. Your character in Fallout 3, your character has come out of a vault fairly late. And one of the things you do in that game is you go to other vaults. And other vaults have been compromised. And other vaults have
been everybody inside's dead.
Obliterated.
Oh, man.
There was one vault where it was populated by clones of one person. and they all attacked you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so every time you turned a corner, there were more versions of this guy. I think his name was like Bruce or something.
That's easy to do as a game designer.
Yeah, right.
You know?
So, I'm, what you're saying is this is a game where there are so many options. Where do you start? You will spend I'll spend probably a night just making my character.
Right. Yeah.
That's stupid.
Yeah, I know.
It is. It's
for
stupid.
certain games, it's not. But for a game like Fallout 4, to where everybody's been anticipating it and everything like that, you want to get in and start playing the game, or at least you have to start playing the game before you can create your shit.
Yeah.
And that way you're already in the game to where, you can spend the time on making yourself, so to speak, but you have limitations. If you've got all this stuff that you can throw on yourself right away,
right.
I don't know. For me, it kind of just would take away the challenge maybe of the game, to whereas you're more prepared for everything.
Yes. It's not a just jump right in. It's going to take forever to play. I'll probably never get to play another game again,
Well, right.
kind of thing. And the other thing, too, which Bethesda does really well is there is story hiding everywhere in this game. And if you just run through a room and don't look around, you're going to miss a great little Easter egg.
Right.
You're going to miss a great little tidbit, everything from just books on the shelf and their titles, and you can read lore, to what the visuals. You walk into a room and there's a guy who's dead in the corner, and clearly something happened, and if you look around at the props in the room, you will figure out, one night, Insano Robot came crashing through this guy's door, and he fought it off, and look, he's got a half a broken robot tentacle sticking out of his chest. There's story everywhere in a Bethesda game, and so you end up spending 4 hours in a building.
Right, or
getting nowhere.
Yeah, and it'll turn into something like, hey, if you're having a conversation, so what are you reading right now? Well, I got this novel in Fallout 4 that I'm really into.
Yeah.
Can't stop reading it.
Yes, they even had it was a DOS-based computer game on one of the terminals in the last game, and you would go and you could play Zork basically, on a computer in there, and it would give you hints as to where something went. It's just
that's like poker and Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah,
oh
yes,
my
yes.
gosh.
And you can't play a Bethesda game without a game guide. I will play, with a laptop or a Brady guide in my lap,
right.
And then it becomes like a job. It's a weird thing. So that's my good news, bad news, man. Fallout 4, can't wait, dreading the day.
Right. Yeah, it seems that you feel that way about Fallout 4 as I feel about going to see Batman versus Superman.
Oh, yeah, right. Can't wait,
but I kind of know what's coming. Or at least I hope that what's coming isn't what I think is coming. But anyway, Batman, Superman, that film is
the smell of justice.
Yeah, right. The smell of justice. They can smell justice.
It's going to smell. I just don't know what it's going to smell like, man. Oh, brother.
Well, one thing that you and I enjoy doing is perusing the Netflix.
Ah, yes, Netflix.
And one segment that we will be providing on this podcast is a segment I like to call That Random Shit on Netflix.
Just got home. I need to get my fix. Let's find out what type of shit that they got on Netflix. Oh, come on, baby. The shit that's on Netflix for me and you, babe.
So for me, I guess we could just go back and forth here. So my first thing on Netflix that I think that everybody should watch, anybody should, just from just filmmaking in general, is the film Tom Hardy stars in that came out a few years back entitled Bronson.
That's excellent film, man.
For me, I think that it's Tom Hardy's best acting performance, and I don't know why it didn't get more play, in the media or whatnot. I think probably maybe it was because it wasn't like an American-made film.
It has kind of if I remember, kind of a weird narrative structure to it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of artsy.
It's like nothing I've ever seen before, man. For one, the character that Tom Hardy plays, a guy who was nicknamed in prison by his fight manager in the bare knuckle bras. He was called Charles Bronson. I can't for the life of me remember his original name. But anyway, Bronson is the most notorious criminal in the history of penitentiaries in London
So the English prison system or whatever.
Right, exactly.
Most notorious,
the baddest of the bad. And let me tell you, this film shows every bit of it to where at the end of the film, you are convinced there has never been a more badass prisoner, not only in real life, because I'm sure this movie embellishes a little bit, but in any film I've ever seen. This is the greatest badass prisoner I've ever seen in my life. He's awesome. He's psychotic. Tom Hardy just does such a good job of conveying his psychosis in this film, and how we are put into Bronson's head as this for him is just one big performance. His life has just been one big performance, and the film is kind of
operatic with his violence, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And he's basically just telling an audience in this movie, here's my life. I can't really do a good Bronson, but his dialect is fantastic. The movie's great. And the movie is not a warm and fuzzy film by any means.
Oh no,
whatsoever.
No, it's
but I just when I first saw the film, I think it was back in 2011, and I think the film came out in 2008.
That sounds probably. You're probably close in there.
Yeah, October 2008. It came out in the London Film Festival, and then 2009 it was released only in the UK theatrically. So that's why we didn't get that play over here in the States, I guess. But it definitely has gotten play on Netflix, and I highly suggest all of you take the time out to watch Bronson, because the movie rocks the spot.
Yeah, I have seen the film that you speak of. I concur with your opinion. It is a wild, violent, raucous, artsy, kind of experience.
Sure.
Okay, so the film's going to push you around a little bit.
Yeah.
It's going to challenge you a little bit, to watch. So if that's your thing, man, definitely something to dial up. What else you got?
Okay, and then my other thing that I found on Netflix actually recently, because when I work at home, I have on my iTunes on my computer, I have about 80 to 100 tracks that are nothing but television show theme songs, cartoon themes.
Really?
It helps me creatively. I don't know. I can't really explain it.
That's cool, man. I did not know that.
Yeah. So I can. Nothing puts me to work like the theme from Growing Pains. But another TV show that had a sweet ass theme that was was Star Trek, not the original television series, but the animated series that came after the original series was canceled, which was just the dumbest thing that either the dumbest or the greatest thing that could have possibly happened to Star Trek.
It's yes, you have the original series, TOS.
Yep.
And then there's nothing.
Right.
And then there's this cartoon.
Right, exactly. And the great thing about the cartoon is the fact that Shatner, Nimoy, and DeForest Kelley all resume their roles on it. And they're the only ones that provide the voice acting for the characters of Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. But another thing that I thought was the fact that they could do anything with the cartoon. As far as
limits.
Aliens go and all that stuff, man, they could do anything. And for that period of time, it's kind of like CG now.
Right.
Doing a cartoon for Star Trek, just expanded the universe a little bit more. You got to see creatures you'd never seen on the original show.
Right.
And it was all fun. And another thing I really liked about it was the art style. That it was very similar to your Hanna-Barbera, Johnny Quest, and that to me, I really wish we could get an animated feature, that is of that same old school style, because I just feel like in the world we live in now, it's all about recreation, and it's all about, sequels or, remakes or whatever.
Right.
And instead of remaking stories, why don't you go back and remake things stylistically? Like, do a cartoon that is in that old school Hanna-Barbera, style with a great story.
Right.
That's completely original.
Right. Let's revisit aesthetics.
Right.
Right. As opposed to just the content.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I like that. And also, too, Star Wars has had some success with an animated series.
I watched a little bit of the Clone Wars.
Yeah, maybe Star Wars needs that. Star Trek needs that. Star Wars, it worked for Star Wars to an extent. Because the last series that Star Trek had was Enterprise, and it was not terribly well received, and it didn't really last all that long. And that was terrible, because Scott Bakula is the bomb, man. Mm-hmm. Scott Bakula's awesome. He made for a great captain. And I think that an animated Star Trek, how solid is that? Because I'm not totally feeling the J.J. Abrams joint either.
I like the first one okay, but they did take some liberties, destroying the planet Vulcan.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and not only that, but Vulcan gets destroyed, but here's Leonard Nimoy flying around like, my planet got destroyed.
Me and Kal-El.
Right. Right. Exactly.
We were like the twinsies.
Yeah. So. But I totally feel you on those films, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't even see the second Star Trek film, the newer ones.
I saw it and I forgot it.
Yeah, just because
I think Engelbert Humperdinck is in that one too.
Yeah,
right?
he is. I do believe he has the cop show box or whatever with him as well from that wizarding show that I think he was on. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, when I found out that Benedict Cumberpatch was the villain, I was like, okay, that's cool. I think at that period of time, I was like, who the heck is he? And then people were like, oh, he's like the star on these BBC shows or whatever like that. And I was like, okay, that's great. Well, what's the villain? Well, it was Star Trek 2, and it is, without question, the greatest film in all the Star Trek movie films is Wrath of Khan.
Of course.
Star Trek 2.
It's
the
like
best.
The Empire Strikes Back of the Star Trek universe.
So, because of the positive upswing that the original J.J. Abrams film provided, when they announced the sequel, of course all the fans were like, well, you gotta do Khan. And I was like, well, if they do Khan, that's gonna be badass. But then, leading into it, Abrams is like, it's not Khan. So I was like, oh, man, well, I just didn't have as much interest. So I wasn't going out and seeing it opening weekend. Then I have friends that go see it, and then they tell me it's Khan, and I'm like...
Yeah.
Well...
And in Lost, they're not all dead either, right?
Right.
That's like, J.J. Abrams is the worst liar in the Liar's Factory.
And that's why I think he's done so well with like all the Star Trek or all the Star Wars stuff now that he's doing.
Because he's just open.
He's open, and but he's not telling us much,
right.
And he's not taking the time out to throw any hints or anything like that. I think too, with what they showed us with the initial teaser of Star Wars, everybody's like sitting back like, all right,
right?
I think we're going to be well taken care of in November.
Yeah, it's a very different thing than when Phantom Menace was in production. The spies, there's a website, Ain't It Cool, which used to be Ain't It Cool News.
Right.
They really put themselves on the map by, publishing spy photos from Phantom Menace.
Right.
It's just because of how open I think J.J. Abrams has been in terms of, information and not being sketchy with the story and all that. yeah, I think it's bode well. I think people are going to sit back. They're looking forward to it, and they're going to see what's. I think just based on the kind of work he does, I think at his heart he's more of a Star Wars guy than a Star Trek guy.
Sure. Oh yeah.
I do.
Absolutely.
I think it's more his vibe. Mm-hmm. And I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Oh man,
watch.
I'm gonna do the whole 3D D box and all that stuff.
I'm gonna cosplay as the Black Stormtrooper. Do you think that'll go okay?
Well,
you think that's a bad plan? I don't know.
Well,
maybe I'll go as the old Princess Leia.
Yeah, you can never go wrong with Princess Leia.
Just Chewbacca didn't get gray, which is kind of strange to me.
But I think he is a little bit lighter.
Yeah,
he's a
you
little
think
lighter.
His coat lined up a little bit?
He's getting a little salt and pepper,
right?
maybe.
So I guess Wookiees live longer, so it would make sense. But maybe he does just for Wookiee or whatever.
Well, let's just hope
he does like a hair dye.
Let's just hope it's like Chewbacca and not Newbacca, his son, or whatever.
Newbacca.
I don't know.
Chewbacca Jr.
What do you got on Netflix?
All right, so what's good on Netflix? I have a couple things. They are not new by any means, but, something that, going back to earlier, we suffer in this modern golden age of geekdom from choice exhaustion. There are so many choices, right? Mm-hmm.
You can't make up your mind.
You can't. I will just scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. So I'm going to two things for if you are in a particular mood, okay? Which really Netflix should allow you to create your own lists, and sort. I really don't understand why they don't do that.
You have a queue.
But just a big, massive clump of stuff. Let me, say, hey, this is Rainy Sundays. This is Friday Night Thrillers. This is, family fun, whatever. Anyway, so if you're in the mood for something that is a horror comedy, I highly recommend something that's been living on Netflix forever, which is Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Okay, stars Alan Tudyk and another guy, can't remember his name. They're a couple of hillbillies, and they're small town hillbillies, and teenagers come into town. Rowdy teenagers come into town to rent a cabin, right, and have a weekend of partying. Now, in the typical horror movie formula, trope.
They're all going to get massacred.
They're all going to get massacred, and it's going to be the hillbillies that massacre them, or some other unseen threat. But because this is a comedy, it's a satire, the teenagers are actually the threat to the hillbillies, basically. Okay. It flips the whole cabin in the woods tropes a full 180 degrees, and the teenagers are the horrible people. The hillbillies are essentially the victims. And also, there's other things too. I don't want to ruin it, but Alan Tudyk's great. He's a super entertaining actor who, I don't know why he isn't, at least a B level. I think he's more like a C tier, D tier kind of actor. He was the pilot on Firefly. Wash and things like Steve the Pirate and Dodgeball, and he does a lot of part. I was just watching a movie called Premature last night, a comedy, and he has a small part. I'm not quite sure what's going on. Anyway, if you like Cabin in the Woods horror movies, if you like horror comedies, if you like Alan Tudyk, if you like hillbillies, or a bunch of teenagers in a cabin, right? Definitely a movie for you. The other thing that I have is if you are in the mood for something that's kind of Twilight Zone-ish, sort of speculative, scary twist, sort of anthology series kind of thing. There is a English show called Black Mirror, which is living on Netflix right now. What's funny about our friends, our English friends, is that when they do a season of a show, of course, it's called a series.
Right, it's a series.
It's not a season. Second of all, they'll do 3 episodes, and that's
the series.
Yeah, that's the series, right? So for those of you who are like, I can't get into another show, because it's just too much stuff to watch. Okay, so you can watch all Black Mirror in 6 hours. Okay,
yeah.
There's 6 episodes that are on Netflix, and there's a Christmas episode that you can stream off of the Sky channel or network or whatever it is, their website. So what is it? Black Mirror is a 1-hour dramatic series. Each episode is separate, and they thematically address the horrors that technology may possibly bring to us. Okay? So there's a lot of sci-fi, a lot of speculative, a lot of dark twist endings. You know, Rod Serling would highly approve. So if you're looking for something, and it's also very relevant to modern life. Okay, these are things that, just for the first episode, just to give you a setup, there's a princess in the English royal family who's kidnapped. Kidnapper wants one thing. He wants the prime minister to have sex with a pig on live TV and have it streamed across the globe, or he'll kill the princess. Okay? And Twitter blows up, and social networks blow up, and the pressure's on, and he can't hide from it, and eventually, you know, it happens.
Right.
And then there's a twist on top of it, right? This is actually a play on something that was almost Shakespearean, but without, you know, going into the history. So anyway, every episode, some of them are like straight up dystopias, you know, future dystopias, all highly recommended. So Tucker and Dale versus Evil, if you're interested in horror comedy. If you're interested in sort of sci-fi horror anthology, Black Mirror. Those are my recommendations.
Roll right on. So that's like our rad stuff on Netflix. You know, every single week, I'm sure we'll have some more stuff. Actually, on your monitor there, I saw Danger Mouse.
Oh yeah, we'll talk. Yeah,
it's just been recently added on Netflix, and that show right there, you know, was a staple of mornings before school for me as a kid.
Oh well, you know, future episode. I think we're going to talk about Saturday morning cartoons, right? We're gonna hit the Wayback Machine, right?
Yeah, remember those millennials? Oh, that's because you never got them.
Yeah, man. If there's one gift I could give to the up and coming generation, it would be Saturday mornings.
Broadcast network television, Saturday mornings. Your big 3 or 4, whatever, all going head to head from 7 a.m. till noon every day. What have you got for us?
Yeah.
And in the mid-'80s, there was nothing like it, because if there was DVR in the mid-'80s, everybody would have watched the Saturday morning, every show.
Yeah.
I mean, you
had to pick.
What are you going to watch? Yep.
And but we're gonna save that one, because we're going to talk about what we were watching and what we chose. That's going to require a little bit of research, because I can't just trust my memory on that one. My memory is going to play some games, I think.
Real quick, before we get into our main topic of discussion here, as we've already reached the hour mark.
Thanks for hanging with us, by the way. No doubt. If you're still listening and you're not our moms, right. Thank you.
Right. I recently found Oregon Trail.
You've died of dysentery.
Yeah, exactly. I found it on. It's streaming. You can play it online streaming. The 1990 version, everything.
Right.
And it's still a bitch.
Yeah,
it's
man,
still a pain in the ass.
It's hard times on the Oregon Trail.
It is, but I did make it though.
You did. I
did make it.
I made it
by myself. I made it by myself.
You were the last survivor?
I was the sole survivor.
Oh my! And then what happened?
Well, it gets easy once everybody dies and it's just you, because then you can haul ass to Oregon, you know, and just hope you have enough food and supplies and clothes to get there.
If you are okay with everyone dying, you are going to succeed.
Oh, you will survive. Yeah, if you're going in this.
So when Obadiah, falls off a cliff or gets killed by a goat or dysentery,
you don't want to have your party in the Oregon Trail be mom, dad, relative here, girlfriend. You want it to be like just 4 random people. So that's why I've always done like Batman, Robin, Goku, and just have them go on the trail with me, float and forge your way across rivers and whatnot. So anyway, I just found that, and I just wanted to mention that just because, it was good fun for me as a little kid, not really knowing exactly how to resource or manage Right. You know, but it was nice to throw it back and play it a little bit.
In keeping with that, next time when we meet, I'm going to try to have a fun little thing that I found.
Okay, right on.
Or whatever.
So that's kind of covered in our segmented portion of the podcast, and now it's time to just get into the crux of everything. This podcast is going to be running just a little bit longer just because, well, this is the first one.
Right.
We want to kind of give you a little idea or a taste of, what we'll be talking about as we move on with the podcast. But right now, we're going to get to the main topic of discussion, and it's one that I felt that was really important, and Tom also feels really important to talk about as just an introductory thing for us here, and that is... Hold up. It's going to be something you'll have to wait on, but not too long. Next week, Dr. Tom Lucas and I continue our discussion, and we're jumping right into the meat and potatoes, folks. We're going to talk about the philosophical effects of geekdom. Now, I'm sure some of you have read a comic, read a novel, watched a movie, or played a rad video game that changed you as far as the way you think in, reality, the real world, outside of video world, or outside of comic book land. But I'm talking about, something that gripped in your feelings, folks, just got you by the heart and tugged away at the strings. Maybe there were some little anecdotes you found in some of these stories. I'm talking about all that life-altering shit, man. So please come chill next week. We had a blast doing this, and much more is on the decks. So as Steve Perry once said, be good to yourself, read some comics, go see The Terminator, have some fun, and then come back here next week for more. For Dr. Tom Lucas, I'm Matt Simone. See you next week for Matty Loves Podcast.
Matty Loves Podcast.